good evening, everybody. So good to see you all. Some faces I haven't seen in a little bit, so that's nice. I think even one or two new faces I've never seen, so welcome. Some faces I see often, and good to see you as well. So last week, we started talking about Raja Yoga, the yoga of the mind. And the first verse of the Raja Yoga Sutras is now yoga's explained. And yoga, we saw, was to yoke together or pull together, and it's to connect with our own self, our highest self, which our own self, they say, is also the universal self or universal soul. So it's to connect with self. But it's not always easy. It's hard to see who we are because the mind gets in the way. And verse 2 said, yoga is stilling the waves of the mind. So we just started to touch on that, and that's what we'll look at tonight. And so the mind makes it a little bit harder to see with ourself, or to be our best self. And our best self is in there, right? And we can always ask a question if we just think of any situation that we're going through right now, and we say, well, how would the best version of me handle this situation? Or if we think of something, any situation that came up today, we say, was there how would the best version of myself have handled that given situation, in traffic or, wherever it was today, an interaction with another person or even an interaction with ourselves. Maybe we put ourselves down in a certain way. So what gets in the way from being our best self, right? Why do we not act that way? And the yogis say the mind is what gets in the way when the mind is turbulent. The mind can be in different states, and yoga is to still the waves of the mind. So I'm reading the translation and commentary from Swami Vishnu. And so verse 2 is yogas Chitta Vritti Nirodhah. So what do these different words mean? So we have yoga, it's the first word. So yoga, connecting with self, we do that by restraining the activities of the mind. So chitta is the mind stuff. Vritti is the thought waves, like waves on a lake. We have waves on the mind or different thoughts on the mind. And Nirodhah is to cease or stop. So we want to stop the turbulence of the mind. So what are these thought waves? Every thought we can call a different wave that comes up and down on the mind. And there are different types of waves, which we'll see in the next few sutras. And they're coming up over the surface of the lake, and we're going to look at that surface a little bit today. So if we say the self is beyond the thoughts, beyond the mind, we can think of that if you ever look at a lake, and if it's very windy, you can't see the bottom, right? The waves are taking up your view. It's not very clear. And as the waves calm down, we can see what's underneath. We can see the reflection of ourself in the lake. And so each of these different thought waves stops us from seeing the self. And we have more thoughts again and again, all the time and all the time and all the time. So these are the vrittis, the thought waves that we try to calm down. But what are they coming out of? So Swami Vishnu says that the chitta, the mindset, the mind stuff, is the underlying substratum, the very foundation that makes up one's mental apparatus. So this chitta manifests in one of 5 forms at any given time. So we have 5 main forms or states of mind. So let's take a look at them. So the first one is called kshipta, or scattering. So the mind is all over the place. And maybe we can relate to that a little bit, right? The second one is mudha, so darkening or dullness. So this is where we don't want to get up off the couch. This is if we associate them with the gunas. So the first one, kshipta, is like the rajas guna. So the mind is jumping all over the place. We can't sit still, leads towards anxiety, nervousness like this. And then mudha is dullness. So this is more towards the depressive state. We don't want to get up or do anything. And then the third one is called the vikshipta, which is gathering or centering. I'll go through each one of these a little bit more in detail in a moment. And so we start to gather the rays of the mind. And they say if you're practicing yoga, that's the state you're in, because we're trying to focus the mind together. If you're in the dull state, the mudha, you're not even getting up to come and sit and meditate, but we still can fall towards it a little bit. And then after that, we have the Ekagrata state. This is how I've started to learn Sanskrit. So we have this word Eka, which means 1. So I've learned the first numeral in Sanskrit. So we start to learn the words, as we study. So Ekagrata is one pointed focus. And that's when the vritti, the thought wave, we have one thought, cucumber. And then the next thought again is cucumber. And the next vritti is cucumber. So we can focus on cucumber. We can also focus on Hanuman or Shiva, or we can focus on anger or sadness or hatred. But they're all different things we can focus on. And after Ekagrata, once the mind can focus on just one thing, so they say we can let go of that one thing, and then we have the state of Nirodhah, or there's no more thought waves. The lake becomes completely clear, or the mind is peaceful. So let's look a little more in depth at these different states of mind, and we get to my absolute favorite line in this whole book, in all the commentaries. So we start with the kshipta, or scattered state of mind. So the kshipta, scattering form, is activity and tends to be experienced as pleasure and pain. And we tend to run to what we like and run away from what we don't like. And that's what we talked about last week. Anyone do their homework? Stay away from something that's not so good or head towards something that's good? Yes, I see a hand or two. I stayed away from sweet snacks, so thank you all for the support just by saying it out loud, right? It makes it a little bit easier. So the mind we experience tends to be through pleasure and pain. So we run to pleasure, even if it's not good for us. We run away from pain, but sometimes what's painful is actually good for us. A heart conversation we might put off for so long. A trip to the dentist we put off for so long, but after we come out, we say, oh, wow, okay, I feel better now. So the mind acts to justify its desires and does not care about the consequences. So here's the best line in here. So the mind thinks of a Frankfurter, it thinks of a hot dog, and it must have one, right? But when the mind is warned of the poisons it contains, what do? We put mustard on the hot dog, and then we eat it anyways, right? So we cover up the poison. And this is kind of how we go through in the kshipta state. Like, I know that's not so good for me, but I do it anyways. I find an excuse, right? I make a reason to keep going and doing what's eventually going to cause suffering. So this is the kshipta state of mind. So we're just running towards pleasure, which isn't necessarily what is good. It could actually be harmful to us. So now, the second state is the mudha state. So this is a tendency to see and cause suffering to negate happiness. So when we're stuck in the dullness, in the tamas, nothing is good, no matter what. If we're in a bad mood, it doesn't matter what someone talks to about that. We'll just find what's everything that's wrong with it, right? And we have maybe some friends like that. No matter what news we bring, they, instead of seeing, oh, why can that be good for us? Oh, but what if this happens? What if that happens, right? Because the mind is stuck in the negative. So that's the mudha state. And then we come to the vikshipta state. So that's the gathering. And in doing the research, I always, Swami Vishnu says gathering, but in other commentaries it says fluttering, like a butterfly. So the mind is, it flutters away, it comes back. It flutters away, it comes back. And that's usually where we are in the yoga practice. We're trying to come back to our breath. We think, we come back, we think, but we always have that intention to come back. So this is the good state, to be starting our practice from. And from there, if we can keep the butterfly coming back, we get to the one-pointed focus, and then we can come to stilling the mind. So what do we do? How do we handle all of these different states of mind? So we have the kshipta, or scattered mind. And that's where we're just putting the mustard on the hot dog and eating it anyways. So when the mind is jumping all over the place, we need to find ways to focus it. And we can also reduce what scatters it. So even the diet has a big impact, right? If we, drink a big cup of coffee and then try to meditate, and we say, well, why is my mind racing? It doesn't work. So meditate, then have your cup of coffee, like this, right? So it's to try to think, what activities am I doing? Are they conducive to the practice of calming the mind, or am I doing a lot of activities that are stimulating the mind? So if we see the mind is scattered and racing a lot, we can look at our diet a bit, and then we can try to focus the mind, with some practice, holding the asanas a little bit longer, trying to breathe. When the mind says, let's come out of the pose, as long as it's not hurting, can we hold just a little bit longer? Let me take 5 more breaths so we can build a little discipline for the mind when the mind is scattered. When the mind is dull, then what can we do? We have to elevate it. So if we're in a really dull state of mind, we don't want to do much, holding yoga poses isn't going to help us at all because we have no energy to focus, right? We're in a state of tamas. We need some energy. So it could be some vigorous sun salutation, some movement. Swami Shivananda says, go out for a walk. just get going, move a little bit. So you raise up your energy. Chanting is very good, kirtan chanting, being with the friends, being with a pet, something that'll get you active and engaged. And we can notice these states of mind and say, well, I'm feeling quite low. How can I lift myself up? I'm feeling all over the place. How can I focus myself? So this is the rajas and tamas. And then the other three states are more the sattva. So once we're getting into the vikshipta, the gathering of the mind, the mind gets distracted and comes back, then we can try, maybe I meditate just a little bit longer every day, right? I try to do a little bit more of that kind of practice, and that's going to train the mind to be more present for longer periods. For the Nirodhah, for perfectly stilling the mind, Ekagrata, the one-pointed focus. This we can come to bring into our daily life, being more present when we're cooking, when we're eating, when we're walking. We have a few Buddhist meditators here tonight, so hopefully I get this right. I think that's called mindfulness, right? So it's just being more present with everything we're doing. That's Ekagrata. So I'm fully focused on exactly the task that I'm doing. And then we can start to see life as a yoga practice. So I'm paying attention to every cut of the carrot that I'm cutting, to every step as I'm walking. And then we can turn our daily life into a way to focus the mind. And the mind is happy when it's focused. That's why we tend to do things. Because when the mind is still, we're not thinking about all of our worries, all of our problems. We're actually closer to a peace of mind, having that ekagrata. But the question is, what do we have that focused mind on? Before I said cucumber. So cucumbers are good, especially in the summer. They cool us off, but it's not very uplifting, right? And we'll see later on in the sutras, it says to focus on Om or something uplifting. But we can also focus on something negative. And believe it or not, you can become enlightened focusing on something negative. It's just not very pleasant for those people around you. But why do we hold on to anger? When we're angry, that's one-pointed focus, right? The mind is stuck on anger. When we're happy, when we're sad, we can use those emotions to hold on to, but we want to attach to something that's lifting us up, not pulling us down. So that's why we meditate with a mantra. If you do use mantra meditation, because it's always uplifting the mind. And that's also why we can get addicted to certain emotions or thought patterns, because we're fully focused on them. We're so used to being in that state of anger that that's all we pay attention to. So in a way, it's bringing the mind closer to one-pointed focus, just not in a helpful way. But that's why we keep getting sucked back to it. And that's what we're doing in the meditation practice, is creating like a positive thing to keep focusing on. And that's what we'll conclude with tonight, is just a nice analogy called the record player analogy. So you're familiar with the record players? You have the needle, you put it on the record, and the record spins, right? And we could say each song in the record, is a different thought pattern in the mind. And if you have like a favorite song, let's say by the Beatles, and you always put on Let It Be, you put the needle and let it be, let it be, let it be, it starts to dig a deeper groove. And then you want to play, let's say, Sgt. Pepper. I know it's not on the same album. I don't think it is, but let's say it is for this example. You put the needle into Sgt. Pepper, but then what happens? It falls into Let It Be. Because you've dug a deeper groove, it keeps skipping into that groove and it sticks there. And this is kind of how our mind works. So we have these kind of habits or grooves that are so easy to fall back into. And we can think of them as just, one-pointed focus. And whenever something happens, we fall into, what's your reaction, right? Some people tend to hide or shy away from something when it happens. Other people get angry. Other people get excited. There's so many reactions, but we tend to have few reactions that we keep falling into. The mind just falls into these grooves, and it's happy there because this is how I know to react. I'm fully focused on it. We have one-pointed focus on the reaction, but it's not always the best or healthiest reaction. So when we're practicing meditation, we're creating what's called the meditation groove. And if we meditate in the same style all the time, every day for not weeks, not months, but years and years and years, that groove gets deeper and deeper and deeper. And then when the mind falls into the other grooves that aren't so helpful for us, we mentally repeat Om if we're meditating with Om, or Om Namah Shivaya, or whatever your meditation mantra is, or if you're coming from another school of yoga or school of meditation, you come to your practice in your own way, but you come into the meditation groove, And then you're no longer pulled or stuck into something that's detrimental to you. And you can actually observe the situation from the meditation groove. Because why are we trying to still the waves of the mind? Because it's like having a lampshade over a light. It changes the color of the light. If you have a pink shade or a blue shade, and if we have an anger shade over the mind, we see everything angry, or a sad shade or an excited shade. We're not actually seeing the world or ourself very clearly. But it's so easy to be stuck in that one shade. So when we practice the regular meditation, it's kind of like cleaning the window, clearing the shade a little bit, and then we can have that one-pointed focus to see what is actually in front of us. So these are the different states of mind, and our thoughts come up depending on which of these states of mind. Our thoughts might come up a little bit differently. When we're feeling very dull, our thoughts can be quite negative. When we're in the scattered state, the thoughts are all over the place. So if we can notice we're in these states, we can actually do something about it, right? We're feeling low, get up, go for a walk, move around. If you're feeling all over the place, do something that focuses your mind. Maybe just light a candle and stare at it for a few minutes, the Tratak practice, right? There's different tools we can do to come out of those states, and that's when we could start making decisions, as opposed to when we're not seeing very clearly. So yoga helps us to still the different turbulent thoughts of the mind, and that brings us closer to mental peace or inner peace. So there is Sutra number 2, and next week we'll look at number 3. Maybe we'll get to 4 also, and just, to get excited about it. It tells us what happens when we still the mind, what's underneath the mind. So we'll see that next week. So I wish everyone a wonderful evening. Pay attention to the different states of mind that you're in during the week, and maybe you can start to shift them a little bit as well. Om Namah Shivaya.